Well, in this country today, we rely overwhelmingly on petroleum-based fuels. About 95% of our fuel base today is derived from petroleum. But in the last several years, there's been a growth in ethanol use in particular, some degree of biodiesel, but as Mark mentioned, overwhelmingly today, ethanol is derived from corn as a feedstock. There is a great deal of excitement, though, about new technologies that would turn cellulosic biomass into ethanol and other liquid fuels that could substitute for petroleum. Cellulose, as Mark indicated, is the non-digestible portion of biomass, but there are a variety of technology pathways to take that cellulose, break it down into its constituent compounds, and basically either break it down into sugars that can be fermented directly into ethanol, or gasify it and using a synthesis process that's been around since the 1930s, reduce it into a liquid fuel. So that's a process that's been around for 60, 70 years. It was used, for example, by both Germany as well as South Africa for several decades when they did not have access to global petroleum markets. Most recently, there's the new focus on cellulosic ethanol is based on breakthroughs that are occurring in the area of life sciences, industrial biotechnology. And there are several companies, both here in Massachusetts as well as in Southern California and other parts of the country, other parts of the world, that are developing process technologies using microorganisms, either fungus or yeast or bacterial organisms that can you break the biomass down into its 5-carbon, 6-carbon constituents, and then ferment those sugars into ethanol. All biomass has an abundance of sugars in it, but the problem is it's all bound up with what's called lignin. That lignin is basically the glue that holds plant matter together. It's the reason that wood houses can stand for centuries. But if you can break that lignin down, there's an abundance of sugars in the structure of woody matter or leaves or grass clippings, other kinds of biomass. I work specifically for a company that has been working for several years using sugarcane bagasse or residue as a feedstock. So after you press the sugar and take the juice out, which is used in the food chain, you have what is known colloquially as cane trash that can be, historically it's simply been left in the field and burned, and you get these very black fires that are characteristic of tropical areas where there's sugar caning activities. More and more burning is being banned, and so here is a process for taking that biomass, breaking it down, and converting it into a useful, valuable liquid fuel alternative to petroleum. The process that we're working on is also adaptable to other kinds of feedstocks, whether it's sorghums or wood chips or whatever. So that's just one example of a technology pathway. Other companies here in Cambridge, Greater Boston, out at University of Massachusetts at Amherst, are working on other processes using other kinds of organisms. So there are several promising technologies now under development, but there is to date no commercial scale production of cellulosic ethanol. So this is still in the future. It's a few years away. I think to tell you a bit about the legislative framework that's been established for this industry, Congress at the end of last year passed a law that mandates the increased use of biofuels to help displace our reliance on petroleum. As I mentioned, we're about 95% dependent on petroleum today. People realize that that exposes our country to tremendous economic risk. The petroleum comes from unstable and sometimes hostile parts of the world, so we need to find some alternatives. Congress also recognized that we cannot continue to derive our ethanol fuel from foodstuffs because of the impact that using food for fuel production would have on food prices and so forth. So the new law mandates that over the next 15 years, we step up our reliance on cellulosic feedstocks for liquid fuels to the point that by 2022, we should be deriving about 20% of our fuels from ethanol, about 15 billion gallons from corn as a feedstock, and about up to 21 billion gallons of ethanol and other fuels from these so-called advanced biofuels, including cellulosic ethanol and other types of fuels that may not even be imagined today. There are companies exploring the production of biobutanol or other types of synthetic gasoline that might be able to be blended more easily with conventional petroleum fuels.